Hey everybody, it's Dick here. Today I'm looking at the 2018 Honda CRF 1000L Africa Twin in Candy Chromosphere Red. And if you thought that was a mouthful, go ahead and check out the spec sheet on Honda's website. There's no doubt that this is a marquee bike, and it has all of the items and specifications that you'd want on a high-end adventure bike. And there's very few corners cut, except for maybe this plastic skid plate here, and the odd bits of plastic here at the rear sets, or some of the engine guards. The welds look good on the frame, and I do like when I see bolt-on rear sets. Nice quality brakes, stainless steel exhaust. The rear brake reservoir out in this exposed spot is pretty odd to me. There's an unfortunate gap here at the tank where the seat meets it for the lowered seat height. And the display doesn't really inspire me all that much. It reminds me of an old automobile display. The controls look quality, but the placement of the horn and the indicators always mess me up on Hondas. And it sports one of those odd kill switch start switches that I've seen on a couple of bikes. The finish is very high quality, very premium. And you don't think of Honda as a premium brand in terms of motorcycling, but this rivals any of the bikes I've seen on the market and any of the brands I've seen in this class. I'm eager to get it on the road and see if it can live up to the hype. So I'm riding on the 2018 Honda CRF 1000L Africa Twin. It's a big bike. I'm in the lowest seating position. I can adjust the seating position to another 20 mils higher, but that would mean that I was not able to put my foot down. Still at the lowest seating position, it's pretty high. There are, interestingly enough, are 3 torque settings to put power to your back wheel. I'm on the lowest torque setting, and it's still pretty torquey. It's all very confusing for my hands. The turn signals, the indicators aren't in a very intuitive place. Every time I go to indicate whether I'm turning right or left, I'm pressing the horn. The turn signal's really low, and for my small hands, I'm always looking down to find it, which isn't a good thing because I'm taking my eyes off the road. I'm sure the longer I ride this bike, the more comfortable I'll get on it, but at low speeds, it's pretty unwieldy, especially if I need to put my foot down. It doesn't seem any bigger than the F700 GS that I ride. Around these small roads and slow roads, the power feels about the same. The engine is a lot more responsive, or at least it gives more feedback than the GS. The engine is very vocal, which I like. Not too keen on the display though. There, I missed that turn signal again. Looks like a 90s Honda car, which I guess is the trickle-down effect of big corporations, big manufacturers. The clutch is really kind of hard to feather. When I take these big bikes out for rides, this is the kind of test drive I like. I like the test drive where I'm sitting in city traffic and I'm forced to go slow because I can see how the bike handles. I know this bike is going to handle well out on the highway at speed. I can tell it's well balanced already. It's at these slow speeds where it's asking me to be more skillful. Ooh, that's nice. Look at that. A little around the roundabout and be able to dip that bike pretty confidently. But it's these little stop and go things that really test these big bikes. It tests the gearing on the transmission. It tests the weight and maneuverability, confidence. Because if you're going to bring these adventure bikes off-road, you're not going to be going 80 miles an hour. You're going to be going 20 and 40 miles an hour. So knowing how these bikes handle in low speeds is pretty valuable when you're test riding them. The ergonomics are nice. The handlebars are a little far away for my liking. My arms are almost straight, which is interesting because they're pitched back towards me. And there's a pretty high riser on it as well. That's interesting. Legs are comfortable. The seat's comfortable. Really nice in those curves. So the lowest torque setting, wow, that's powerful. This is a comfortable bike. There's a lot of power. When I drop into gear, it just bucks. I'm gonna try the next torque setting at this light. We'll see Alright, oop, it jumped. Okay, now I'm in the second torque setting. Whew. Yeah. On the GS, I was really interested in the adjustable suspension. I never even considered adjustable torque. And wow, this is fun. It's scary though. It's like, bah! It just pulls you. Wow, yeah. Great sound on this bike. Whew! This thing pulls. And that's only the second torque setting. I'm afraid of the third torque setting. This is a very comfortable bike. It's got a nice feel when it idles. There's a little bit of vibration in the handlebars. A little more than I would expect. Going about 40 miles an hour and I'm just about 2,800 RPMs. And it's a little vibey. That's interesting because I didn't expect this to have any vibrations. The mirrors are still, but my hands are buzzing a little bit. That's a bit concerning considering this would probably be mostly used as a touring bike. There's a nice lumbar support where the passenger seat hits you right in the small of your back, which is a nice effect too because it means your passenger is sitting a bit higher than other bikes and you're not going to be knocking helmets into each other. And this bike has the power to carry two people quite easily, so I like that feature. It's not too big that you can't filter. There, I push the horn again, trying to indicate left. That's annoying. Reminds me of the Harley Davidson indicators. I kept turning the bike on and running the starter whenever I wanted to try and turn the signals. My little hands couldn't reach down to the indicators. Rear brake by itself seems a little soft. Front brakes are very responsive. Yeah, the more I'm riding this at these slow speeds, the more confident I'm getting. Little jerky when you try and feather the clutch. Again, I don't know if it's these new ride-by-wire bikes. Yeah, that's got some nice pickup. Suspension feels good and soft. Again, a little vibey, just under 3,000 RPMs, 40 miles an hour. Nice in curves, really nice in the curves. Wow, you could dip that low. Engine's got good feedback. Oop, there's the horn again. Don't like the controls. Yeah, so a little bit jerky on the first gear. Turning radius is nice. Wow, well balanced. I like that. You can turn off the ABS to control the back on the rear. You can't turn the ABS off on the front. This guy's not getting in here. Nice little narrow bit. Felt really confident in that. Getting easier to find those turn signals. Not so much, I had to look down again. So, interesting, when I turned on the bike, after taking a bit of a stop, it reset to the third torque setting, the highest torque setting. I was gonna say I should really change the torque setting to see how it feels. And when I turned the bike on, it was already there. So something that you want to consider. I was saying to myself, wow, this is really torquey in the second setting, and I didn't really notice that, but it was the third setting, so it was the highest setting. So you start off in the highest setting. You need to tame the bike if you want it to be a little less, wow, Jesus. I think it's a little too powerful for yours truly. Yeah, just before 3,000 RPMs in, I think, almost every gear, I'm finding some vibrations in the handlebars. Just think that's worth noting. I think standing up, very comfortable, though the paint on the tank is very slidey. I think some pads there would do well, because I think if you're going to be doing some adventure riding on this, you're going to need that. And it's weird, the cutouts where you think you'd rest your knees are really at a wide part really far forward, so you're not really getting there unless you're a lot taller than I am. Again, I have to note how comfortable this is. That lumbar support of that pillion seat. It's a nice little touch. I don't know how much support there would be at the higher seat setting, but at the lower seat height, you're getting really good support there, and you can just kind of rock back into that. Handlebar position's in a comfortable spot. The pegs feel really stable and wide. I still have the rubber inserts. Great turning radius. Really, for such a big bike, those U-turns are a dawdle. See what the suspension does. Slides over those. Oh, that's really nice. Yeah. What a comfortable bike. What a great feeling bike. You can tell how well thought out this bike is, and that it really took into consideration their target market and their competitors. This is 200cc bigger than the F700 and F800, but it feels as light as those bikes. And the engine, like I said, is a lot more responsive, and it gives a lot more feedback. I'm also impressed with the tone of the stock exhaust and the sound. It sounds like a mean bike. The vibrations that I'm feeling in the handlebars, I'm not feeling in the seat, and I don't know if that's because the seat's nice and thick or if I haven't been on it for that long, but it feels comfortable in the seat. I'm not getting discomfort in my lower back. The wind guards on the handlebars seem a little low, or maybe a little narrow, because my fingertips are cold and the tops of my wrists are getting a lot of wind. They're also just plastic, unlike the BMW that has the reinforced bars that go behind it to protect your levers. These are just plastic, so if I were to drop this bike, those are going, and they're not really protecting anything behind them. They might even cause more damage to what's behind them when they break. Those high indicators as well up by the windshield, they seem very vulnerable as well, like they're gonna snap off if this bike goes down. So I think a good investment for this bike would be to get some crash protection for all these plastic bits sticking off the bike. This transmission is lovely. It's really predictable. It works the way a motorcycle should. This is how I wish the GS would work, because you have an expectation of what your engine will do, how it'll sound, how it'll behave at certain RPMs. And with the more technologically advanced bikes, you're missing that. But this, it's high tech, but it's a motorcycle. Love dipping this on a turn. It's really nice. Feels really good. I do like the protected brake reservoir. The BMW sits out top like a little shot of whiskey. It looks neat, but that's one of the vulnerable parts of the cockpit on that bike, so I do like that that's one of those steel box ones. The cable clutch has a nice smooth pull to it. It's not too heavy. All in all, I was prepared to be disappointed by this bike. I had read a lot of good things about it, but you know, generally, like with the NC700X or something, the N700X, it had a lot of promise, but it didn't deliver. I think that's the thing with Hondas, is that some models just hit the mark right on the head. They just knock it out of the park. The bikes do what they claim to do, what they're intended to do, and then some other models just fall short. And it's that lack of consistency that makes me nervous about buying a Honda as a primary bike. But I'd buy this one. This is a nice bike. If I had a habit of going touring or wanting to do some serious adventure riding and my skill set was up to it, I could do this bike. I could see this bike being very unwieldy and being a problem for someone who doesn't have the right skill set. And I think maybe that's probably the risk of this bike. On this test ride, I'm really impressed with it, and I'm seduced by how maneuverable it is in these low speeds, and it might even give me a bit of confidence that it's lighter than it is, and I might go and try some adventure riding on it, and then find out that this bike is heavy, or this bike tends to tip over in the mud, or I might be surprised at what it does off-road. And because I'm not an experienced adventure rider, I would have bought a bike that's out of my league, and I would have been convinced that I could handle it, because on the road I can handle it, and on these test rides I can really dip these curves and I can control it. The suspension seems supple and forgiving, and then I'll just end up dropping it, picking it up, riding 5 feet, dropping it, picking it up again. So I think if you're an experienced adventure rider, this is probably a good adventure bike. If you're not an experienced adventure rider, this is probably a great bike for touring, and then learn your adventure stuff on a smaller bike and grow into this bike. I wouldn't say don't buy this bike, but don't buy this bike if you're primarily going to use it for adventure riding and you're not an experienced adventure rider, because I could see this bike turning from a very friendly, forgiving, maneuverable motorcycle into a bear instantly. You'll be like, but we were friends! What did I do? Why do you hate me all of a sudden? You're stuck out in the middle of nowhere because it got you there on that massive tank of gas, and then you pull your shoulder out trying to lift it and you're stuck. Oh yeah. That's where it is, just like that. I stopped, realized I wasn't as tall as I thought I was, and I felt the weight of the bike instantly. It's that instant betrayal, and it's not the bike's fault, it's your fault. So if you buy this bike, you gotta know how to use it, you gotta understand it, you gotta know how, that torque, holy crap, it'll break your neck. You gotta wear a neck brace with that torque. That is awesome. It's surprising, I forgot about it. I think I'm comfortable in the first torque setting. It's crazy. That torque is crazy. Oh man, I think I got whiplash. Wow. Okay, I'm gonna change the torque back to 1 and see if there's a noticeable difference. See if I can get home without an injury. Oh yeah, so much more predictable. Yeah, that's good. I'm gonna change it to... You can change it on the fly! Holy shit! Yeah, that's cool. That'll do. You can get in trouble with that. If you like that video and you want to see more like them, hit like, share, and subscribe.